while ago, I was before the Lord, and I was in vision, and there was a sheet, and the Lord just pulled back the sheet, and he said to me, they're all in it together, Teri. And then he pulled the sheet back and he said, all of them. And I knew that he was talking about politics, of which, honestly, I have really not had much interest in. My mother was a little, interested in it. I wasn't. I just was, not interested in it. Anyway, so when Father said this to me, I was sad. I was sad for about 3 days. I was really sad because I believed in some of them, and my heart was broken about it, just broken. And I knew that Father was wanting my eyes to be opened. And he proceeded to continue from that point to show me things immediately upon showing me that vision and speaking that to me. A couple of my girlfriends were running in a marathon, and they both said they ran in the marathon. They both came through the finish line together through, they all came through the finish line. And then we all went to lunch to, just to celebrate that they finished. They ran the race. And I didn't think anything. I sat there with, both of them. And they both were talking about the race and, how they ran the race and how difficult it was. And wow, when Father showed me the sheet pulled back, they're all in it together, Teri, all of them, and pulled the sheet back when he said all of them. He then showed me a vision of that day that my two friends said that they ran the marathon race. And he said, look closely. Look at the details, Teri. And he showed me things that I had noticed that day. I noticed one of the runners could barely walk. Their hair was disheveled, and they looked like they had been through a war, sweaty, grimy, and what someone looks like when they've run, I think it was 24 miles, the LA Marathon. And then he showed me one of the women, that's one of the girls that said they ran the race, and he said, look at her. Look at her. Look at that one. Look at that one. Now look at your friend who said that she ran the race. And her hair was perfect and shiny. Her makeup was perfect. Her hair was everything. Her clothes were perfect. And I said, what? You mean she didn't run the race? What? And he said, no, she did not run the race, although she told you she did. So I called up my other friend, and I said to her, I need to ask you a question. Did so-and-so, did she run the race? Because the Lord just showed me she did not run that race. And she said to me, well, now that you're asking me, she did not run the race. And I was like, oh my goodness. That was deception. It was a lie, but it was deception. And I believed the lie, because my eyes were not opened to the details. I believed what she said to me. I believed the life of it. I believed the words out of her mouth. And Father was like, open your eyes and look and see the details. And so I say that to you today because I have a lot to share with you, but I'm going to break it into different videos because it would be way too long for one. And most people don't look at videos unless they're less than like 10 minutes. But so I contemplated that. I contemplated the vision of him telling me they're all in it together, Teri, all of them. And he was talking about the politics of the world. I want to share with you, and I have been sharing with my friends, of which, everybody has their ideas, their opinions, what they believe the word says, what they believe that is been revealed to them, and all that is fine. All that is fine. But Father said to me, pulling back the sheet, the white sheet, they're all in it together, Teri. All of them. So when I heard them talking about China being our enemy, and Russia is going to invade us as our enemy, and, Iran, and, all the enemies that we have, I now have been like, So they're the people's enemy. They may be the people's enemy, but you guys are all in it together. So this is your playbook. This is who you are going to create for us to believe is the enemy. This is who you are going to create an enemy, because every good playbook or every good movie has an enemy and it has a hero. Everybody knows that. There is an enemy that is trying to destroy the hero, and the hero's always fighting to do good and to fight for the people and to play the good guy. And so my eyes have been open to that. And I watch now as carefully as I can. But for this video, for today, the Lord told me they're all in it together, Teri. All of them. And I know that might be hard to believe, because we listen to the news and we hear them, saying China's doing this and Russia's doing this, and they are, and they will. But they are all in it together. They are one beast. So the other day, I was reading Daniel. I was looking about the mark of the beast, the mark of God, the mark of the beast. And I read in Daniel 7:2, and it says, Daniel spoke and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, 4 winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. And 4 beasts came up out of the sea, diverse from one another. So there were 4 beasts, diverse from one another. They came up out of the sea. And the first was like a lion, and it had eagle's wings. And there were wings, the wings of it were plucked off, and it was lifted from the earth and made to stand on its feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And then there was another beast, a second beast, like unto a bear, and it was raised itself up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And it said, arise and devour much flesh. And after this I beheld, and there was a leopard, which had on its back 4 foul wings. And after this I saw night visions, and behold, the 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, strong, exceedingly strong, and it had great iron teeth, and it devoured and broke in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the ones that were before it, because it had 10 horns. And Daniel says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up 1. And that is important, that he considered the horns. And this is a problem today, because we don't want to consider stuff. We don't want to see the details, which is what Father has been revealing. So much stuff of what happens in the world today that you just believe it on surface value and believe what you're told, and don't consider. Have a little bit of an open mind to consider more in depth the details of what you're seeing. And so there came up a little horn that there were 3 horns, and and the three were plucked up by the roots, and this little horn had the eyes of a man and a mouth and spoke great things. Okay. So, in Daniel 7, we have 4 beasts that come up out of the sea, and they are diverse from one another. But there are 4. We know that these 4 are 4 kingdoms, 4 separate kingdoms, right? Well, in Revelation 13, it says, and I stood up on the sand of the sea, John, the Apostle John, and Father tells Daniel, listen, Daniel, just seal all this up, what I've given you. For it is not for now, but it is for the end of time. So he goes to John, who tells about the end of time. And now he gives us further understanding into these beasts. And he said, John is once again standing on the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his 10 horns, 10 crowns, and the name upon the heads of each head was blasphemy. And the beast which I saw, the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were the feet of the bear, and his mouth was the mouth of the lion, and the dragon gave him power and his seat with great authority. So, Father said, Teri, they are all in it together, all of them. And so we see in Daniel that they are 4 diverse from one another. And then in Revelation 13, these 4 beasts become one. They become one body, one beast, because they are all in it together. It is one big movie. It is one big playbook. So when you hear of their little script, that they will tell you, oh, China's doing this, Russia's doing that, just remember, they are all one beast. They are all one beast. They are in it together. If China's doing something, or if Russia is doing something, or this leopard is up to something, it is one beast. They are plotting and planning together as one. They have different heads. They have different parts of their body that they play. Like we as the body of Christ, we have a hand, we have a feet, we have different parts that we play. Well, this beast has different parts of the body. It has the mouth of the lion, it has the feet of the bear, it has the body of the leopard, and it has the power of the dragon. And they all play their parts, but they're all one. They are all of one accord, going the same direction for the same purpose in one accord. I just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to share my understanding. You know what I've done? I've literally set aside everything I've heard, because to be quite honest with you, since I have been learning from Father in heaven, and I know very little, but the little that I have learned, it's not most of it, not all, but most of it is not what we've heard or what we've been taught. So I now have learned to set aside everything that I hear or what's being spoken, and try to get along with the Lord and just learn with no preconceived ideas, no pre-understanding, though yet some of it I believe from my understanding, and I'm just a person, I'm just one girl, and I'm just one girl, and I could be wrong, I could be, but so far, you guys, so far, I would say 99.9% of the things that I have learned in heaven have been revealed to me in the Bible. I've come to the Bible and seen it, having no understanding of it or even thinking about it, like, oh, that's that, putting it together, until I see it in vision. Father teaches it to me, and then he brings me to his word and says, look, for instance, like what I've just shared with you. I'm going to share about the rest of the beasts in Daniel, as much as I know. I'm sure the Lord's going to reveal so much more, but for where I am now, and hopefully, honestly don't know that much of what's being spoken out there, because I've never really been interested in Revelation or the end times like that. I just haven't. I just haven't. It was too much for me. It was too overwhelming. Like, I don't understand any of that, and I can't even begin to think that I do. But because, Father, for the past about maybe 6 months in heaven, has been having me to stand there with Ezekiel, with the Lord, and is showing me stuff, and from the beginning has had this, like, has been showing me about the Luciferians, who they are, what their plans are. It's like, he just does that. He just starts to reveal the plans of the enemy and uncovers the enemy, and you begin to start to see him. Oh, I never saw that. Oh, what? Anyway, I'm going to share with you in the next couple of videos a little bit more in detail about the beast and the dragon, and take you on a trip. I went with Gideon in the spirit to the south. I experienced this whole thing in the spirit with Gideon, and I didn't understand it. I just didn't have understanding. So, of course, I didn't share it with you because I just didn't have understanding. But I have some understanding now. So I'm going to share that with you too. Anyway, that's all for today. Just remember, the sheet is pulled back. They are one. They are all those 4 kingdoms. Those 4 heads of those 4 kingdoms are all in it together. Though they may seem, and though they may play like they're enemies, they're not. They are of one mind and of one accord, and they are all in it together, and they are all joined through one religious structure. Anyway, that's it for today. Okay, God bless you. Bye-bye.